Hey, Mike,
Dominic, thank you so much for having me.
are you kidding me? I'm so excited to have you here. I can't wait for my guests to hear the stuff I've already learned from you. I want you to tell them all. Tell them what you got.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm psyched to be here. We're going to be digging into profit first. And by the way, it's good to reconnect too, right? The last time we saw each other, ever so briefly, but it was in Frankfurt, Germany.
That's right.
And that was, I think it was
It was
2 years ago.
2017.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. And I was, Profit First had just started to catch on kind of on a global level.
Mm.
And it's been quite a ride. What's so wonderful is I know we're talking about cabinet makers and contractors and the application there, but Profit First has taken on a life where it's penetrated all types of industries, and that's been just a joy to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was when you first launched the book and you presented to us there. And I
Yeah,
was taking notes as mad as I could. You know, your room, you may not have known this because you were standing anyways, but we were standing at the back. It was packed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was yeah, that was really remarkable. That it's here's what's this as a quick aside. What's funny about presenting and rooms specifically, the same number of people. So I don't know how many people were in there. Say 100. It was a smaller room, right?
Yeah.
You put 100 people in a room that seats 1,000, it is the most lonely feeling in the world. You put 100 people in a room that fits maybe 80, like that room did,
Yeah.
it feels like it's packed and energized.
There's a different energy. Yeah. I had that similar experience. I did a TED talk late or early last year,
Wow.
and it was 3,000 people. And I think there were 2,995 people in there.
Yeah.
I should add, I'm Italian. About 4,000 of those people were my relatives, but still,
Yeah.
it was still packed. And it's just great talking to an audience like that, but it's easy to feed off of.
Yeah, it's easy to feed off of. And I know we got some serious stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Just one last thing on audiences. They do dictate the speaker's performance in so many ways. Sometimes there's an audience that's just flaccid and they're like, or placid. They have no interest in listening. And it's so hard to present. And then there's what we experience at EO where people are just scrolling down notes and firing
Yeah.
away questions. And it's resonating. And these people are going to carry that message, not just back to their own business, but propagate it.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna boomerang off what you just said. Anybody listening to this podcast episode that's going to be at the AWI Spring Conference in New Orleans, please give me some feedback while I'm up on stage because I'm the closing keynote speaker for that. And
Wow.
I don't want to see a bunch of, as I say, Easter Island statues staring back.
Right.
Yeah. Mike, so that people know, I mean, you know that this is for cabinet makers, architectural millworkers. And so that means people make everything from kitchen cabinets and
Yep.
furniture all the way up to entire casinos and high-end hotels worth of wood. Beautiful stuff. But
Yeah.
let's give them a sense of who you are and how you come to be here,
Yeah.
because I think that's important for context for them.
Of course. So I'm an entrepreneur first and foremost. Have been the entirety of my life. I've been a business owner ever since I graduated college. I've been running businesses, and I've had if I look at my resume, you see the bullet points. I've had the good fortune of selling a couple companies. One was acquired by a Fortune 500, another private equity. I've been involved in marquee projects that are known internationally, like the Enron trial. My company was actually one of the lead investigators in that. I've had all that, which sounds amazing. But when you peel back the onion, that's the resume bullet points. That's basically it. To fill out my entire resume, I have to say, proficient at Word, speaks English marginally, right? But the real meat of my resume, which I think is the important thing, is the valleys. I ran two of these companies into the ground and barely got out. I was lucky to sell them. I refinanced my house to cover payroll once. I decided to start a business as an angel investor because I thought I knew all things about business, which, by the way, arrogance and ignorance is a deadly combination. I collapsed so fast. I evaporated all of my wealth that I'd accumulated. I was broke, had to start again. I lost everything. I lost my house. I lost my possessions. The only thing I didn't lose was my family, which is remarkable. And I started again and decided ultimately from that experience that I'm going to declare and do something that my heart sings out to do, even though I don't know how to make it successful. And that's become an author. So 10 years ago, I declared I'm going to be an author. I'm going to write books that solve the challenges that I never understood. I didn't know how really to be sustainably and permanently profitable. I didn't know how to do anything but work my ass off. I didn't know how to grow a business healthily without investing tons of money into it. I wanted those solutions. So I started to research, learn, create books.
Yeah.
And ironically, today, as an author, I love my career, but I also have a small business. It's 14 employees, so it's a tiny business. but it's actually flourished a business, and now it's my most successful business in all regards. So that's been my journey. And my hope, my last thing I want to share is I am on a mission to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. What I realized is when I started my first businesses, I was a good 15 years of living a myth. There's a perception the day you start your business, people who are not business owners look at you and think immediately you're a millionaire.
Oh yeah.
And they think like you don't work at all. Like you just sit on the beach drinking Mai Tais.
Yeah.
The reality is the vast majority of us struggle surviving check by check. It's a constant panic. And Mai Tais, no way. We are tied to the business, and that's all we do. So there's this gap between perception and the reality, yet many of us entrepreneurs, myself in particular, felt compelled to put on this image of success of what I was seeing when I was really struggling. My goal, my life's mission is to close that gap for entrepreneurs to really live what we are perceived to be. Because when we have that success, financial success, the lack of stress, time, happiness, then we can deliver that to our employees. They then have wealth and happiness, and they bring it to their families as we bring it to ours, and then our communities, our countries, our world. And I think every change will start with entrepreneurs, and that's why I'm so dead set on resolving that.
I love it. My last business, I trained business coaches. I had a franchise system of about 200 franchisees, coaches in the world.
Yeah.
And we said that we are the pebble on the pond, which is almost exactly the visual you said there, that when you drop in a business coach with a business owner, the first impact level is not the business, it's the owner. Yeah. Then it's the business, then it's the people in the business, then it's the city, then the state or the province or the shire, wherever you are in the world. And then it's the country and then the world. And this is a good segue because I went on Amazon as I prepped for this and I wanted to see some of the reviews that people have given you since you launched the book, which I didn't realize it had just launched when I met you in 2017.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, that's cool. So look at, this is the impact you've had. And I want the listeners to hear this because they have a BS meter that's constantly running. And I know
totally. I get it.
Yeah, as they should.
Yeah.
But I speak in front of lots of these groups and they're skeptical. They've been at the business a long time. Here's what other guys in their industry have said. So this is for your book called Profit First for Contractors. It's your Profit First book. Your book called Profit First is very popular, and now you've got another add-on, which is the For Contractors.
That's right.
Subtitle, if you will, which is Transform Your Construction Business from a Cash-Eating Monster to a Money-Making Machine. So you've already got our attention there. So I just grabbed some of these from Amazon. An invaluable resource for contractors, especially those of us that don't like the number side of running a business. Can't wait to finish implementing the PFC system and make 2019 our best year to date. I really like this one. I'll stop at this one. What's the point of being able to build a house that can survive 100 years if you can't build a company that can survive 5? Buy this book, read this book, live this book. I can't tell you how much what I needed is inside. I can't tell you how much it's changed my life.
Yeah, so it's flattering to hear that. That book, I partnered with Sean Van Dyke. Sean Van Dyke's the author of Profit First for Contractors. And when I wrote Profit First, it is the base system. But I very quickly realized that there's uniquenesses, of course, in every industry. So I partnered with the authorities. I can't speak highly enough of Sean Van Dyke and what he wrote in that book. And I think people that read that and experience what he's teaching, it's going to be a game changer. There's no question.
Love it. Well, let's launch into the actual topic of today, because we want to give value to these contractors, these architecture mill workers and cabinet makers that are listening. So my question is, why? So we start with why.
Yeah.
Why do most entrepreneurs struggle to ever even make a profit?
Yeah. So interestingly, it ain't our fault, right? And maybe that's a weird way to start something, but I actually thought the lack of profitability in my own business and so many entrepreneurs that struggled, that was our fault. I thought it was my fault. And if you think about it, we get a lot of things right. Like everyone listening is able to attract prospects, make them customers, deliver our services and our promises to them, collect money, advertise, expand, get referrals. Like there's millions of pieces moving on in our business and we get it all right. And I looked at myself, I said, I get everything right except for profit. Like I literally thought there was a chunk of my brain missing that was the profit chunk. I said, what's wrong with me? And this went on for years in my businesses to the point where the biggest insult was I remember meeting with my tax accountant one year and he circles a number at the bottom of my income statement and it said $15,000. He says, I want to congratulate you. You had a profit. And I'm like, I felt so good. And I asked him, I said, well, where's the money? And he starts laughing. He's like, you spent that already. That's an accounting profit. And my face turned red. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I want money, like cash profit, not paper, you know? And that's when I realized around that period of time that the fundamental flaw is not in us. It's the system we use. The foundational formula for profitability is sales minus expenses equals profit. And when you look at it logically, it makes sense. You must have sales, inbound cash flow. You must incur expenses to buy your cabinetry, buy your supplies and so forth, pay your work staff. And then what's left over is profit. Very logical, but it's not behavioral, because what we're told is profit comes last. And it's human nature. When something comes last, that's the definition of being insignificant. It can wait. It's the manana syndrome. Like the example I use is if one of us, Dominic, got rushed to the hospital today because of a cardiovascular event, a heart attack. Yeah. We go there, the doctor looks at us and says, you know what? Here's what you need to do. You need to stop drinking, stop smoking, start exercising immediately, or you will die. Change your life today. We don't come out of the hospital and say, starting today, I'm going to put my health last. Of course not. We say, starting today, I'm going to put my health first. And that's the key. It is human nature. When something comes first, it means it is the priority and must be done. When something comes last, it can wait. So the reason we never address profit is we're told it can wait. The end of the quarter, the end of the year. And when it doesn't happen, we kick the can down the road on profit. And it gets kicked down the road over and over. And we go years and years, sometimes decades, a lifetime without ever being profitable.
Crazy. And I see it all too often. You know, one of the very first things that I do when I'm working with a client is we start to put the metrics in place, the key numbers.
Yeah.
And I have to keep relearning this myself. It starts with the numbers because we have to understand what we're aiming for in the numbers, because that helps me manage. And so if you're a company that likes to manage interesting numbers, what's your profit per X? Yeah. And for our guys, sometimes it's deficiencies per $100,000 or deficiencies per 10,000.
Right.
If you don't measure that, if you don't make it a priority, you're right. It just
what gets measured gets done. And but I just want to also understand is that we have to be cognizant of our behavior. The key is this: our behavior dictates our outcomes, and for us to change our behavior is extremely hard or near impossible to change ourselves. You know, smoking's a good example. Everyone knows that smoking's bad for you. Like, we don't even need to talk about it. It's talked about all the time. Yet people continue to smoke, even though it's deadly. And it's because it's established behavior. Yeah. So the same thing with profit. We've been told ad nauseum, profit comes last. We even use the words, it's the year end. It's the bottom line. It's the final take. Everything says it waits till the end. But we have to understand that we are now pushing it off over and over again. And many of us try to compensate. We say, well, you know what? Maybe if I simply grow faster, if I grow more, if I simply grow, the profit will magically appear. So we have this orientation toward growth, and we actually ignore profit even more. And then we're surprised, I was, that my business now had achieved $1 million or $5 million. Actually, one of my companies went to $7 million in revenue with no profit. And I was actually shocked. The problem is, back to that formula, it tells us, the old formula says sales minus expenses comes first. So what do? We focus on sales and we focus on expenses. We don't like to call it expenses. We call it growth, investing, and stuff like that. But we stay in this loop and we keep on putting profit off till the end. And selling your way to hope expenses will happen. Profit will happen, will never happen. We need to bake it into every transaction. It needs to be baked into our business.
So how do we break that behavioral pattern that I have, or that all of us have? Where is my, give me a tool to break the behavior.
I'll give you a tool. And the interesting thing is, it won't break your pattern. It actually leverages it. And that's the key. Again, changing our habits or breaking habits, very hard, near impossible. But we can change systems to channel our behavior so our behavior stays the same, but we get new results. And that's the goal of Profit First. What we do, the theorem behind this is we flip the formula. Instead of sales minus expense equals profit, we flip it to say sales minus profit equals expenses. And let me explain what that is mathematically. It's called a variable swap. There is no impact on the logic. It's actually the exact same number. But behaviorally, it's radically different, because now in execution, we're saying every time there's a sale, we immediately take a predetermined percentage of that money as profit. We allocate it, hide it away from ourselves, and then we run our business off the remainder. By the way, is a form of reverse engineering. If you want to achieve, we'll say 10% profit, and you take it first, your business then will tell you, here's what the expenses you must work within to achieve 10% profit. So we don't have to change anymore. We continue to do the same thing, but by flipping the formula, now our behavior of perhaps logging into the bank account, seeing how much money we have, spending what's available, now it works to our advantage because we've pulled off the profit component first.
So then this begs the question, how do I hide it? And we're talking about legit hiding, like all within the concept.
Yeah. This is a cash management tool, and we don't break any laws. That's rule number one. Here's what we do. First is to realize that most businesses run via what's called bank balance accounting. I've now interviewed or surveyed, I say it's probably a better choice of words, easily over 100,000 businesses. I speak at events all the time. I actually have one coming up next Monday that's going to be 1,000 people in the room. And I'll ask people, how many people here, even though your accountant may say never look at your bank account, instead look at your income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, tie those in together, know your KPIs, your metrics, all these different numbers. How many of us still revert to looking at our bank balance? And I said, be honest. And I would say 90% of the hands go up. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And your hand coming up too.
Yeah,
and
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Here's what I want to say. That simply means you are human. That is a good thing. That is the standard normal behavior. And we now need to channel that behavior. We've been told by traditional accounting to resist it. Never look at that because it's not reflective of your business. Don't do it, yet we still do it. So that means, and modern accounting has been around for 300 years, we need a system that works with our behavior. What we do with Profit First is now we set up multiple buckets at your existing bank so that when money comes in, we pre-allocate to its purpose. Instead of a single bank account where you look and say, oh, I got all this money to spend, now money's allocated toward profitability, to making sure the best employees are paid, which inevitably the owner's the best employee. So we make sure that money's reserved for a salary. We make sure taxes are addressed. We make sure that your supplies are purchased and your operating expenses to operate the business are all reserved. Those are what I call different buckets. Well, now you log into the bank account, you know what money is available for what purpose. But to your question, we're going to go one more step. As money gets allocated to these different buckets, we're going to take money out of that profit account and transfer it to another bank that is inconvenient, meaning inaccessible.
Oh.
You transfer it to a bank that has no starter checks. You definitely do not want online banking, and you're not going to get that shiny ATM card. Instead, I want you to find some local bank that's a good 3-hour drive out of the way. And you're going to send in your deposits. Maybe you mail them in or however you get your deposits in there. But the only way to withdraw money is to go there and get a cashier check. And that means every time you drive to get that money, you have to spend 3 hours thinking long and hard. Are you taking profit out for the only reason it should be used for, which is a reward to the shareholder, or are you trying to circumvent the system and are you paying expenses with it? And if you are trying to pay expenses with it, that means you can't afford your bills off your current expenses. And if you can't afford your bills off your current expenses, that means your business has a fundamental flaw that we need to fix. Stealing from our profit doesn't fix things. It's the quick drug. We need to fix our business, cut unnecessary costs, amplify margins. And whenever you take that 3-hour drive, I call it the drive of shame. If you're taking expenses out, that's a problem. But when you do get it out and it's a profit distribution, oh my God, that feels like gold. It is the best day when money comes out to reward you for being a business owner.
That is brilliant stuff. So step one, automatically allocate that to a profit account. But then also, once it's in that profit account, move it from the bank that you're used to using to an inconvenient bank.
Yes.
We should have them on as a sponsor. Inconvenient.
Yeah, we're the most inconvenient bank in America. Good luck.
We only take puka shells and sesame seeds. And then but you make it so it's out of harm's way, out of my own personal harm's way.
Yeah, I actually, we were talking offline about accountability. I even have an accountability partner, and you can do this with any any friend. I would suggest they have no interest in your business. So there's a friend I work with, his name is Joe, and he's a dual signature on my profit account check at that inconvenient bank. Whoa. Which means when I want to issue a check, I actually have to go to Joe and get his signature. Now, the beautiful thing is Joe has no interest in my business. He's not related to my business in any regard. He simply has the ability to release a check back to me. So when I want to take a check out, I have to meet with Joe and explain that this is a profit distribution. Now, my businesses, I've been doing this for 10 years now. So my business, I just had the 39th consecutive quarter of profit distributions. I meet Joe every time. Even on the 39th visit now, I was taking money out and Joe said, what are you doing with this money? Are you going to pay expenses? I said, no. My business has to run off my OpEx.
Oh,
He
good.
goes, are you going on vacation with this? I said, exactly. He goes, show me the bookings for your vacation.
Oh, Joe's a good friend.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick. He's kind of a dick.
That's what
But,
I meant.
yeah, but which is the best friend. And the beautiful thing is I can't cheat myself. In the beginning, I did try to cheat myself. I'd be like, I need this money because I'm dying. That is always indicative of a fundamental business problem that you need to resolve through innovative thinking, through efficiency, through unique strategy, never through stealing from yourself.
Clever. You got to be clever.
Clever.
Yeah.
Necessity is the mother of invention. So by restricting the flow of money into our business, we'll start becoming innovative. And if you want to be, if you want to lead your industry, you have to outthink your industry.
Yeah. I'm going to make a note of that one. That's going to be a power quote from Mike Michalowicz. So this whole profit thing is interesting because, what we find is that so many business owners don't know their financials till the end of the year, 3 months past the end of the year when the accountant gives it back to them, right? Yeah. So let me go back into that profit question and say, where do you find the most resistance from a business owner on reducing their expenses or increasing their prices?
Well, okay. So I get on both sides. It flip-flops very quickly. So when we tell people about the system, they'll say, okay, I think I can cut 10% of expenses. And by the way, any business I think can cut 10% of expenses pretty quickly. This is the old muscle versus fat component. We can trim the fat, but you don't want to cut the muscle. So sometimes we have these subscriptions that we never use in some software and stuff. Like, let's cut that stuff. Sometimes we have, space. We have space that we rent and say, well, it's grade A space. We want to impress clients, but clients have never come there. So maybe we don't need that. So there's some obvious things. Then business owners will say, I can't cut anymore. And you're telling me, Mike, I got to cut everything. And I'm like, no, you don't need to cut everything. You need to remove the stuff that's not benefiting you, that you're not extracting value from. The rest you have to keep. And whatever you're keeping, extract more value from it, participate more in it. So we cut a little bit. So that's where people get confused first. They think they need to cut everything. And then they say profit first doesn't work. The second thing is when I talk about increasing margin, they say, I can't. You know how competitive this industry is? And then I argue, well, that means you see yourself as a commodity. That means you're positioning yourself to be the same as everyone else. What can we do to make ourselves radically different from our competition? And one exercise I walk my clients through, I say, let's look at your existing prices. I charge, I'll just pick a reno. So I charge for a bathroom renovation on average $20,000. I'm picking a random number. I say, let's do what's called a double half. Let's double it to 40,000. And then I say, write down all the reasons that doing the exact same work you've done, how you can justify the $40,000. And this starts to stretch the mind to say, we actually guarantee our work. We never make a stink about it, but we guarantee our work for 10 years. If a customer complains within 10 years, we'll fix it. We always fix it. We stand by our work. Yeah. Then I say, well, now we're going to make it very, very vocal. We're going to double the price, but we're going to make vocal what you're already kind of doing. Then I tell them double the price again. Now we go from 20 to 40 to 80,000. Which is ridiculous. It's such an amplification. I said, now we got to justify that. What else can we do at no additional cost that supports that? I worked with actually a company of contractors that does bathroom renovations. Yeah. And they said, you know what we noticed, Mike? That the vast majority of our clients are actually women. They make the ultimate decision. And when we come to their house, they're there usually with their young children. This is very uncomfortable. Here's big burly men in general coming in, and here's a woman with her children there. There's a security concern. We think we can be the most safe contractor out there. What we're going to do is the day before we arrive on site, we send a profile of every contractor that's coming. So they see their picture, their profile, and we've done a security check. It gets better. Secondly, we realize that it's very uncomfortable for a homeowner to have us walking around the house. We're here to do a project, but if I got to use the bathroom, I got to walk through the house. That's scary for them. We're going to bring a porta-john with us. We will never leave the work area except to leave the house on a runway that we put in there to go to our porta-john. Third, they said we'll also install temporary cameras so they can see us at work all the time. So the husband who's at work or wherever he is, or if the woman in the house is in a different room, she can look on her phone and at all times knows where we are. We're amplifying security to a level no one else does. That's $80,000 of value. Then you half the price. So we went 20, 40, 80, then we go back to 40,000, but we keep the value.
Right.
Now customers are blown away. They get all this value for only $40,000. We've doubled our price, so we're getting our margins, and now we've delivered something that's so remarkable, we stand out. That's the way to do it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to breathe through the count of 10. because
Did I go too fast?
No, everybody's taking notes right now. They're like,
Oh, okay. I get pretty hyped for I'm like, oh, jacked. I'm like, we got this, people.
No, those are some solid, real solid ideas that actually come from adding value at the customer, at the coal face, right? The customer need. I mean, we've probably all heard customer complaints on the phone. Hey, your contractor came and your installer came and he wore dirty boots in my house, and I'm like, come to clean my carpets. It would be so easy to change that just by wearing nurses' booties on every. It doesn't take anything.
You know, a friend of mine, he's also a contractor, but electrician, plumber. What he says, he goes, we have one simple rule for all of our technicians: treat the house better than the homeowner themselves. And that's the only rule. You have to observe how well the homeowner's treating the house. You have to do better. So he says, when we walk in, we wear the booties. That's obvious. He goes, when we pull into the driveway, if the garbage can's at the end of the driveway, it's our responsibility to bring the garbage can up. And we don't say anything. We just do it because we have to treat the house as if we're the homeowner or better. You know, if we go in there and we bump a lamp, we reposition the lamp exactly where it was. We'll dust it off. Always treat it better than the homeowner. In fact, it's amazing. They bring in a red carpet. So they'll walk to the door. Do they say, do we have permission to enter your house? Homeowner says yes. They then put a carpet down, roll it in, take 2 steps into their carpet, put on the booties in there, and then they start navigating around the house. Treat it better than the homeowner. And they built this reputation for excellence, and they get a premium accordingly.
Okay, well, I'm so hoping that our listeners are taking notes. Not that the people listening aren't already doing things.
Yeah.
Anybody who's listening to this podcast is already self-selected. They're already.
Yeah. There's no question. There's no question.
What I mean? So, but they're looking for that edge you're talking about, because now excellence is ground zero. It's the plain level field.
Yeah.
We have to be more than excellent. We have to be clever. We have to be aware and smart and respectful and add value wherever we can.
It's shockingly cost effective to stand out. I think the shame is, I'll tell you, the people who are not listening to this podcast, what they're doing, they're like, everyone else does Facebook ads. We need to do Facebook ads. And they're throwing money at things. We need to do, and they're cloning the competition. They're just trying to replicate. And it never works because that's what everyone runs to, right? So they run in these big packs. The key is to differentiating yourself. And I've inevitably found the best ways to do it are usually the most economical. Buy a red carpet. What does that cost? $10 at Walmart? Well, that will make you stand out in such a great way.
Yeah.
Small, impactful things that no one else is doing are much greater than big things that everyone else is doing.
In coaching, we call that low dollar value, high perceived value.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the same in couponing. If I say 10% off your window install, that's okay. If I say $1,000 off your window install,
right.
I'm going to get a phone call if somebody's interested in windows, obviously. So there's the perception of value and the reality of value and how I look at it.
Yes.
So one of the challenges with this industry in particular is the focus on lean manufacturing, lean in our steps, how many steps we take, how many times we touch a piece of paper or a piece of wood or a project. And when I start to think of that and cost reduction, how does that come into the profit first, investing in better systems when, what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I've actually studied lean principles and theory of constraints, TOC they call it. And there's a lot of confusion around this. So a lot of people say lean just means like running lean, and other people think it as the original intent, which was a manufacturing process. So when it comes to running lean from the perspective of just keeping things, the dollar amounts low, profit first inherently drives that, because when you have a constraint of operating expenses, you have to work within those parameters. So you'll have to make hard decisions saying, you know what, I have X number of dollars here. We can buy that new piece of computer equipment, or maybe we can reserve this to start saving up to hire an employee. So it'll force you to make these decisions. There's actually one interesting process I write about in the book. I call it the one more day principle. All entrepreneurs are drawn by the shiny object, like, oh, that new piece of equipment, that's badass. I want to have that. Like we all want that. What we do with the one more day is acknowledge and say, it's okay to want that. So it's not denial, but we simply say, can we just go one more day without it? Just one more day. And then we go for 24 hours. The next day comes, we look at our operating expenses. If you want that shiny object, you simply ask yourself that question again. Can I go one more day? Well, we studied this one business that went one more day for about 2 years. They were able to stretch out what they had for 2 years without any negative impact on the business. they had reserved so much money, they could buy that new shiny object hand down, but the new shiny object had become improved, as new technology comes out.
Right.
They bought a better shiny object at less price, and they launched their business forward even farther. So it'll force you to start thinking at that more molecular level. The other component, though, is if you're talking about the theory of constraints on lean side, which is a manufacturing principle, actually, profit first plays into this too. The theory of constraints works like this.
Yeah.
The business efficiency of any organization is hinged on its weakest link at any moment. For example, if we have a chain, Dominic, between me and you, and we're both pulling as hard as we can, the chain will ultimately break, and it always breaks at the same spot, the weakest link. Therefore, to strengthen the chain, you don't strengthen every chain link. You simply go to the weakest one, strengthen that, and the entirety of the chain now amplifies in its strength to the next weakest link. That's how we have to see our business. Profit first will start revealing that. As you start taking your profit first, and you have less money to operate your business, it'll start revealing the weak link of your business, the weakest link. We want to concentrate our efforts there. Maybe we have actually a couple guys that just aren't pulling their weight. And now you're going to start seeing it because we've constrained money coming in. You have to make a hard decision there. Maybe redirect them in your business or make some changes or give them some more training. Or maybe it's time, sadly, in some cases, to relocate them to another company so they can flourish somewhere else. Maybe you'll find there's certain processes that are just holding things up. Maybe it's your quotation process that takes way too long.
It does.
Right?
It does.
Simply, you fix that simple thing, the quotation process, and holy cow, your business is flourishing. The shame is, before profit first, most business owners are trying to fix everything. Better technicians, better quotation process, better, and we dilute our attention. So using that lean theory of constraints technique, we narrow down cash flow. It forces us to have a more narrow focus, and then we start targeting the biggest problem, say it's quotations. You improve that, the entire business amplifies.
Yeah, I mean the challenge with quotations, especially for the commercial millwork side. So these are the companies that are bidding on the big casino, on the big hospital, etc. Is that it takes a lot of time to bid properly and bid profitably, and then they're all scrambling. It always happens. You get a call from the project manager. There's 3 of you at the final gate. You're high,
right?
And they don't say that as in cannabis is legal. They say you're the high price. It's so easy for them to say that, and they push it back to the contractors, who then say, oh, "Okay, well, let me see if I can sharpen my pencil."
Sharpen the pencil, right?
Yeah, there's got to be a number when you say no.
No. And then there's scope creep, right? Like you start doing it, like, oh, we also expected this and that.
Yeah, you're doing upholstery now. Yeah.
So I have a friend, I will not say his name. He's doing I think it's about a $200 million project. It's a major building in a major city where I live. And he's getting his ass handed to him because of scope creep, because other vendors aren't delivering on their promises, causing delay. He's the contractor. Delays in the deliverable. It is a nightmare project. And he came to me exasperated. We had a couple beers together a few nights ago. And he says, you know what? I've made more money on $1 million projects than I have on $200 million projects. He's like, I'd rather do 200 $1 million projects.
Yeah.
We also have to realize this, that sometimes we can get projects that are so big, they become a albatross. They can kill our business. And yet our ego is like, I want to say that I'm landing these big business projects. Don't let that take charge. And if you start focusing on your profitability through profit first, it'll force you to reconsider it. I think there's a lot more pride to be had in smaller projects that are profitable than big projects that kill you.
Well, that's why revenue is a BS number and profit is the only number that matters, right?
Yeah, I call revenue stress. And what I mean by this is, if you think about it, every time you you bring in more revenue, you're bringing in more responsibility. It is an obligation. The more revenue you generate, you are obligated to deliver your services behind that to customers. So more revenue, more obligation. What's obligation? Stress. The quotient, or I should say quotient to stress, to that stress is profit. So we need to balance that out. More revenue is not necessarily a good thing.
You can see I'm taking notes here. I'm taking notes at places I have to go back in the transcript to pull out cool things you've said and turn them into quotes. So
yeah, fire them over to me. I'll highlight it myself.
Yeah, show them to your family. Look what Daddy said. Look what Daddy said today. So just because we're approaching about the end of this, but I want to ask you, if I go get Profit First, if I go read it, what am I going to get? So the people listening clearly have been engaged by your conversation, but what am I going to get from your book?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've been blessed. We have hundreds of thousands of readers now. And I'll tell you what the most common thing is. So there's Profit First, the core book, and then there's derivatives. So I would encourage people to check out Profit First and to check out Profit First for Contractors. It's a 1-2 punch in my opinion. The first thing people get is, holy crap, I'm not alone. And I don't know why I'm getting a little bit emotional about that, but it's sad that so many entrepreneurs feel that they're this lone island, and it further perpetuates entrepreneurial poverty. I think that's why I get a little emotional about it. So first of all, it's a realization I'm not alone. Secondly, is there's this aha, it's not a book about numbers. This is like, you won't be overwhelmed by numbers. In fact, it's a behavioral psychology book that just talks about our behavioral patterns. So it's not like, I have to be really good at numbers. So there's this relief. So first there's this aha, I'm not alone. Then there's this relief. Oh my gosh, I got this. It's so easy. It's not about being a master of numbers. Then, and this is my favorite part, is people will email me, and I get them all the time. In fact, while we're talking, 2 more just came in. I get about, I'd say 50 to 60 emails a day now. I ask people to simply put a subject line called line in the sand, so I can tell they're right up there. And people will email me and say, I love that's tax season, which sounds bass-ackwards to ever say that. But it's for the first time in their lives, the business has prepared for the taxes on their behalf. So they don't have to worry about it personally. The business cares for it for them, regardless of the structure, S Corp, C Corp. So there's this surprising excitement. And then my favorite part is the profit distributions. Once you get the rhythm going, people start taking profit distributions and they're like, oh my gosh, for the first time ever, my business is paying for a vacation. Or maybe you're starting out and maybe it's just a dinner out, and it's the best dinner out ever because the business is giving it to you as a reward. And then the last thing is, people realize when they read the book is that I can start slow. The entire system's outlined in the book, every single step you can take. But the beautiful thing is you don't need to take it all. It's like, the danger is, if you want to run a marathon and you've never exercised before, the very first practice, you don't run a marathon. Like you learn to stretch, you learn proper form, you build to it. Profit First is designed that way. You don't start by doing the entire system. It may be too abrupt of a shift. It teaches you a very simple way to step into it. Literally within the first 30 minutes of 60 minutes of reading the book, you will have the system in place and start building permanent profitability. So it's really an easy start, and it ramps you up over time. Full implementation you can do over 6 months. Some people do it over a couple of years. You take your time, but you'll be permanently profitable within 60 minutes if you take the first step in the book.
Wow. Okay, well, that is a reason to read the book. So those of you listening, it can't get any more clear than that. Hey,
yeah,
Mike,
I hope so. I hope so. And listen, I needed this system for myself. It saved myself. I've been living for 10 years. And the one thing I felt when I started this for myself, I'm like, this is too easy to work. I was actually highly skeptical. I'm like, this is it sounds like a shell game. I didn't believe it. I had to start doing it for myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, even though we are simply moving numbers around at the bank, it gives you such a perspective change, and doesn't require me to change. My behavior is the same. Log into the bank account, but my perspective shifted so much that's brought around profitability and success in my business that I could have never dreamed.
That's it. Well, that's what people are listening to the podcast and other podcasts like this, because they want to learn from people like yourself on how to do it.
Yeah.
I appreciate with respect your story that you did it and you did it wrong and you got smacked.
I effed up like majorly. And I wouldn't wish that period upon anyone. I actually had to go to my family, face my 9-year-old daughter and tell her, we can't send her to horseback riding, so I can't afford it. As I'm telling my wife, we're losing the house, and my oldest son was about to go to college. I said, you can't go to college. And the devastation was unbelievable. I was sobbing in front of my children. My daughter, I wrote this in the book, my daughter ran out of the room to grab her piggy bank and came back to me and said, Daddy, I'll start supporting our family. And I felt like such a scumbag. I don't wish that moment upon anyone, but that's the fear I have for entrepreneurial poverty. That's why I'm so visceral about fixing this, because I know someone listening right now actually is facing that same situation. And I won't stand for that. And Profit First worked for me, and I'm trying to deliver to others as easily as possible to avoid that from ever happening.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, brother.
I mean, it's why we're here, right? We are not banks. We're here to deliver great product, do great work for other people, and we should get paid for it.
Amen. Yeah.
Hey, if people want to get in touch with you, obviously they can buy the book. They can get the book. But is there another thing they should check out? What's a resource? How do I get in touch with you? How do I find out more?
Thank you. So the book itself, if you're intrigued, it's Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, bookstores. If you want to get hold of me, so I've written many books on all different aspects of what I call poverty, financial poverty, which we talked about, but time poverty, distraction, all these different things. The mecca or the starting point is my website. Now I'm going to give you 2 ways to get there. The hard way is by going to MikeMichalowicz.com. The reason it's hard is because no one can effing spell that name. It's long. It's Polish. I get it. It's horrible, but it's my name. The shortcut, the easy way, is to go to Mike Motorbike. My nickname in high school was Mike Motorbike. The irony, Dominic, is I've never driven a motorcycle in my life. But if you go to MikeMotorbike.com, it brings you to my site. And I think why you'll enjoy it is all my books, there's free chapter downloads, so you can start exploring like within minutes if you wish.
Yeah.
I used to write for the Wall Street Journal. Those articles are free about small business techniques. I'm a podcaster also. I'm a blogger. All that content's up there for free.
Let me add something else for you, Mike, because I've seen you speak live in front of an audience. You were speaking in Germany in English. You had to do it in English. I mean, you're not Superman. But for those of you listening who are on the board of directors of your AWI chapters, your OMAC chapters, your NKBA, your KCCA, any organization there that's responsible for bringing educational content to your members, go check out Mike Motorbike and get in touch with Mike because he's an excellent speaker. Well worth it. And if you're listening to the podcast, it's easy to tell Mike you're very approachable.
Oh, but thanks. Listen, that has to be defined by other people, but I'm nothing special here. I'm just a guy who's really on a path to fix my own erroneous ways and learn about entrepreneurship. I thought I knew everything, and that was my trap. Now I realize how much there's to learn, and I thirst to learn more and like to share it. And I love exploring stories too. I love hearing what other people are doing so I can learn from that. So that's cool, but that's cool. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe it. I came away from that presentation just shaking my head, and here we are today. I feel very lucky to have you on the podcast. So thank you for joining me and the audience. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It is the weekend, so you have a great weekend. Super Bowl's coming up.
Amen to that, man.
Hey, I mean, I'm not going to ask you who your picks are because this won't go live before,
I'll simply say it's not New England. Can I say that? I mean, I'm just not a fan. I'm actually more of a college fan than pros, but the woeful Jets are my team. So anything in the Northeast, I can't stand them. Go green, even though we're never going to win. And I'd rather go back to college football. I can't wait till college football starts up again.
Yeah. Well, you are in New Jersey.
Yeah, I am in New Jersey. Exactly. I'm right outside New York City. So I get over to a game every so often. But I'm a Virginia Tech fan. I'll want to see how much of a fan I am. There's a collection of Virginia Tech helmets right there.
Wow. Look at you go.
Okay. I am addicted to football. So I will be getting to 4 or 5 games this year down at Blacksburg, Virginia.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us here today. I really do appreciate it. And I think you continue to change the world, Mike.
Thanks, man. Thanks for saying it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I'm just so excited to see where you go and what the next book is going to be. So let us know when that comes out.
It's in the works. 2020. Oh, wow. I won't share it yet, but I am extremely excited about this concept. I think this concept's never been addressed this way before. So I'm super excited to do it.
Well, that was a stab in the dark and you bit. So that's interesting.
yeah. But I can't tell you what it is yet. My publisher won't let me release the information yet, but it's coming.
All right. Hey, thanks, Mike. You have a great day and I appreciate your time.
You too. Bye-bye.